Good morning, Year 4. Today we're going to continue our learning on shapes. On day 1 of this week, we talked about angles and learnt about angles, looking at obtuse, acute, and right angles. Yesterday, we looked at the properties of triangles, looking at equilateral, scalene, and isosceles. And today, we're going to look at some other shapes. So first of all, lots of new maths words today that you may not have heard of before. So if you need to pause things, if you need to watch the video again later, then that's absolutely fine. We're going to look at polygons. Now, got a joke here. Polygon, parrot the polygon? Nah, never mind. So a polygon in maths is any 2D shape that has straight sides. So a triangle is an example of a polygon. A square, a rectangle, pentagon, octagon, all examples of polygon. So a polygon is any shape, 2D shape with straight sides. Is a circle a polygon? No, because a circle only has one side. And they're not straight. So polygon is a new word for you to learn today. Any 2D shape with straight sides. In particular, we're going to be looking at these kinds of polygons. A rhombus, square, trapezium, rectangle, parallelogram. So I want you to look at those words and see if you can picture what some of those shapes might look like. I can picture a square pretty easily. Lots of you will be able to picture a rectangle in your mind. But what about trapezium? What about a rhombus? What about a parallelogram? Ooh, all these shapes have got something in common as well. They've all got 4 sides. Now, when a polygon has 4 sides, we call it a quadrilateral. So yesterday we looked at lots of Greek words making their way into maths. And there are so many Greek words that are in maths that we still use today. Quadrilateral is another one. Quad is 4, and lateral means side in Greek. So 4 sides, quadrilateral. So a polygon that has 4 sides is a quadrilateral. And these 5 shapes are all examples of quadrilateral shapes. A rhombus, a square, a trapezium, a rectangle, and a parallelogram. So we're going to look at each shape in a bit more detail now, and we're going to be looking at their properties. So all my shapes are here. The rhombus, rectangle, trapezium, parallelogram, and a square. So if we look first of all at, let's look at the square, the one that we recognize the most. Well, square has 4 equal sides. All the sides are the same size, and it has 4 right angles. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Also, it has 2 pairs of parallel lines. So I'm going to write the word parallel. It's annoying this, it doesn't let me text, doesn't let me type. So you're going to have to make do with my really rubbish writing. Although actually that's pretty good. Parallel. Now, parallel means 2 lines that are always the same distance apart. And the mathematical symbol to show something that is parallel is this. Now, a square has 2 pairs of parallel sides. This side is parallel with this side. And the reason for that is because if I continued If these sides continued forever and ever and ever and ever and ever, just like I'm showing you now, the sides would never meet, they would never touch. They would always be the same distance apart. So parallel means two sides that are always the same distance apart. Oh, I got rid of it all. Let me draw it again. So we had our four right angles. So all squares have four right angles. And it has change my color. It's got a pair of parallel sides here. And we show that with that symbol there, because that symbol means that if that carries on, those two sides will always be the same distance apart. And these, so because we've already used one for here, we're now going to use two. I could have faced them down. I'm going to face them up. So that has two pairs of parallel sides. Remember, parallel means the two sides are always the same distance apart, like a ruler or a train track. Oh no, it's rubbish. Let me rub that out. Because we all know sides need to be straight, don't we? The equal sign is parallel. Those sides are parallel because they will never ever meet. They're always the same distance apart. If I do this, this isn't parallel because the distance from here to here is more than the distance from here to here. And that, if that line carried on, then it would eventually meet this line. So they are not parallel. These two are. So the property of a square, it has four right angles, has four sides that are equal, and it has two pairs of parallel lines. Let's jump over to the rectangle. Rectangle is very similar to the square because a rectangle also has four right angles. Not very good at drawing right angles. It also has two pairs of parallel lines. These two sides are parallel. And these two sides are parallel. The difference is the square, all the sides are equal, but with a rectangle, only opposite sides are equal. This side is equal length to this side, and this side is equal length to this side. Next, we're going to go to this shape. It is not a diamond. Diamond shapes don't exist. So rhombus. Now, a rhombus, my teacher, when I was doing maths in Key Stage 2, used to tell me that a rhombus was a square that had fallen over. And I know why she said that, because all the sides are the same length in a rhombus. However, it's not a square because it doesn't have any right angles. So it doesn't have any right angles, but all the sides are exactly the same length. It does, however, have two pairs of parallel sides. These two sides are parallel. If I kept that line going, and I kept this line going, they would never meet. They are always the same distance apart. And these two sides are parallel. So that's a rhombus. I'm going to move over to this shape now. This is the hardest one to say. This is a parallelogram. And just like a rhombus, it's kind of got the same properties. Doesn't have any right angles, Got four sides, obviously, so it's a quadrilateral, just like all the other shapes. And it also has two pairs of parallel sides. The opposite sides are parallel with each other. They're always the same distance apart. I'm going to show you that. I'm going to change my color. So if I drew a line through here, and then did another line through here, you can see that those sides, or those two lines, will never ever meet. They will always be the same distance apart. Like a little bit like a ladder, isn't it? A ladder is parallel, or has parallel sides. So a parallelogram is very similar to a rhombus over here, except it has two pairs of parallel sides, but not all the sides are equal. And next, we've got this shape. This is a trapezium. The difference between a trapezium and a parallelogram or a rhombus is the fact that it's only got one pair of parallel sides. Can you figure out which sides are parallel? Is it these two sides, or is it these two sides? So left or right, left and right, or top and bottom? If you said top and bottom, you are correct. Bottom. These two lines are parallel because they will never, ever, ever meet. They're always the same distance apart. Whereas these two lines, if I carried on up here and I carried on up here, then they would eventually meet. So they're not always the same distance apart. So there you have it. Loads of new words to think about today. Let's just write them down. We've been introduced to the word polygon. The polygon is not when your parrot goes missing. Where's polygon? Polygon in maths is any 2D shape that has straight sides. Then we were introduced to this word. Oh, it's going to take me ages to write. You could probably say it before I finish it. Can you remember? Quadrilateral. Quadrilateral means four sides. So all these are polygons, but even more specific, they're quadrilaterals. And the other word that we've been introduced to is parallel, meaning two lines or two sides that are always the same distance apart. And today we're looking at the properties of all these quadrilaterals. So let's just go over the properties one more time. The properties of a square. All the sides are equal. It has four right angles and it has two pairs of parallel lines. Over to a rectangle. It has four right angles. It has two pairs of parallel sides, but only opposite sides are equal in length. Then we've got the rhombus, a little bit like a square in the fact that it's got all four sides that are equal. However, it doesn't have any right angles. However, opposite sides are parallel. Then we move over to the parallelogram, which is like a rectangle that's falling over. Opposite sides are parallel, doesn't have any right angles. Opposite sides are also the same length. And then we've got the trapezium. No right angles, and it only has one pair of parallel lines.